Today, we are diving deep into a revolutionary cosmological framework, the infinite dynamo model. By pairing modern magnetohydrodynamics with the profound, original 4th century Greek insights of St. Basil the Great's hexameron, we unlock a mind-bending truth. Space is not empty. The universe isn't expanding. And your consciousness? It's hardwired into the fabric of infinity. Let's start where everything begins. Genesis 1 verse 1. In the beginning, God created. In our modern language, we think of a timeline starting at second zero. But the original patristic idiom used by the early church fathers carries a far deeper structural weight. St. Basil pointed out that it doesn't mean at a random starting point. The true translation is from within or inside the primordial origin. This is what we call ontological immersion. The universe didn't explode out of nothing into nowhere. It was initialized inside a pre-existing, multidimensional divine architecture. Job 26 verse 7 says God hangs the earth upon nothing. That nothing is actually the invisible framework of dark matter and galactic-scale magnetic fields that guide the cosmos. Scientific notions for readers. Electromagnetic radiation, light. The electromagnetic field propagates through space in the form of waves. Everything we see in the universe, from starlight to gamma radiation emitted by black holes to the cosmic microwave background, represents oscillations of this field. Magnetic fields. What generates a magnetic field? The magnetic field is generated mainly by moving electric charges and magnetic materials. It occurs around current-carrying conductors, moving electrons, around permanent magnets, and by the rotational motion of charges within atoms. The main sources of magnetic fields: electric current, moving charges. Any conductor, wire, through which an electric current passes generates a magnetic field around it, a phenomenon called electromagnetism. Permanent magnets, ferromagnetic materials, iron, nickel, cobalt, produce magnetic fields due to the alignment of atomic magnetic moments. Electrically charged particles in motion, the movement of electrons around the atomic nucleus and their own motion, spin, also generate magnetic fields at the microscopic level. Varying electric fields. A time-varying electric field produces a magnetic field, according to Maxwell's equations. Electromagnets, coils of wire through which current passes, used in electric motors and dynamos. Earth. The Earth's core generates a natural magnetic field. Household appliances, switched-on devices, motors, transformers, generate transient magnetic fields. Earth has a magnetic field, magnetosphere. Our magnetic field is generated by the movement of liquid iron in the outer core, the dynamo effect. The Sun, its magnetic activity produces sunspots and plasma eruptions. The solar magnetic field reverses completely every 11 years. Stars. Objects such as magnetars generate the most intense magnetic fields known, billions of times stronger than Earth's. Neutron stars and pulsars. Even those that are not magnetars possess enormous magnetic fields. They spin extremely rapidly and emit beams of electromagnetic radiation from their magnetic poles, acting like cosmic beacons called pulsars. Galaxy clusters. Enormous magnetic fields have been discovered stretching across millions of light-years and connecting galaxies within clusters. Role in the evolution of the universe. Galactic scale of magnetic fields. Star formation. Magnetic fields help regulate the collapse of gas clouds, influencing how stars are born. Energy transport. Transfers energy across enormous distances, allowing us to study objects at the edge of the observable universe through electromagnetic radiation. Magnetars. They are a special type of neutron star, dense remnants of massive stars. Magnetars possess the strongest magnetic fields in the universe, about 1 trillion times stronger than Earth's. Supermassive black holes. In the centers of galaxies, black holes swallow matter, creating accretion disks, gas and dust that rotate at dizzying speeds, velocities. This movement of electrical charges generates colossal speeds. Magnetic fields that propel jets of plasma across thousands of light-years into space. Even in the seemingly empty space between galaxies, there are weak but extremely vast magnetic fields that guide the flow of cosmic rays through the universe. In magnetars, it all comes down to conservation of magnetic flux and extreme rotation. When as a star dies and collapses into a tiny core the size of a city, its original magnetic field is compressed into a space millions of times smaller, becoming ultra-concentrated. To understand how electromagnetic fields are formed and how they appear in the universe, scientific visualizations are essential, as these fields are largely invisible to humans. The cosmic web is the largest structure in the universe, a kind of invisible skeleton that connects everything that exists. Imagine a three-dimensional spider web, where the threads are made up of dark matter and gas, and galaxies are found at the intersections. Here's how it works and what is the role of the electromagnetic in this structure. What is it made of? Filaments, the threads of the web, hundreds of millions of light-years long, composed of hydrogen and dark matter. Nodes. The points where filaments meet. Here gravity is so strong that gigantic clusters of thousands of galaxies have formed. Voids, empty spaces between filaments, immense bubbles of nothing, where the density of matter is extremely low. Recently, astronomers discovered that this web is not only a gravitational skeleton, but also a magnetic one. There are extremely weak magnetic fields that extend along these filaments. When matter falls into these filaments, shock waves are created. These accelerate particles, causing the magnetic field to glow very faintly. In the radio spectrum, the cosmic web acts like a system of highways. Gas flows along the filaments towards the nodes, feeding galaxies and allowing the formation of new stars. Modern telescopes cannot see these filaments directly. This network is not directly visible to the naked eye because it is composed mainly of dark matter. The images are complex computer simulations or maps based on data collected by major observatories. The brightest regions represent the nodes of the network, where giant clusters of galaxies are located. The thin lines are filaments through which gas flows star formation. Some visualizations, with fine gold particles or overlapping blue lines, show the presence of cosmic magnetic fields along these filaments that help guide matter through the universe. On a cosmological scale, cosmic voids are the vast, nearly empty spaces between galaxy filaments in the universe. These regions are known to host incredibly weak, space-filling magnetic fields. The multiverse is a theoretical hypothesis in physics and cosmology that proposes the existence of multiple parallel, physically separate universes beyond the observable universe we live in. This hypothetical ensemble suggests that our universe is not unique, with the possibility that other worlds may have different physical laws or alternative versions of reality. The multiverse represents the sum total of all statistical possibilities and all existing universes. The cosmic network of the multiverse contains the cosmic networks of all universes. We will discuss this cosmic network further. If this cosmic network contracting and our universe were to contract at a faster rate, an enormous potential difference would arise. As our universe passed through the cosmic lattice, electrons from atoms would be pulled out, creating longitudinal electric currents along the cosmic filaments, similar to a dynamo. The magnetic field generated by these gigantic currents would exert a compressive force on the network. If our universe contracts, while the cosmic web lags behind, we are witnessing a radical transformation of physical reality. In physics, if you reduce in space containing an electric field, the density of that field increases exponentially. According to the Schwinger mechanism, if an electric field becomes sufficiently intense, it can break the vacuum. The pure energy of electric field created by the contraction would spontaneously materialize into pairs of particles and antiparticles, electrons and positrons. The contraction pump new matter, transforming the energy of space into physical mass. If the speed difference is minimal, the cosmic web would feel immense radiation pressure from all directions. This pressure would act like a magnetostat, preventing galaxies from collapsing into each other. Basically, the magnetism created by the contraction becomes a magnetic cushion that stabilizes the universe during the collapse. This perspective completely changes traditional cosmology. Instead of dark energy to be a mysterious force pushing the universe outward, it could be a magnetic resistance reaction to the contraction of the scale of the multiverse. If universe contracts, the electromagnetic field generated by friction with the cosmic web reaches critical densities. His ultradense field creates such a high magnetic repulsive pressure that it begins to act exactly like dark energy, trying to stop or reverse the contraction. If matter is the residue of this contraction, then the mass of particles, such as the electron, is not fixed, but depends on the rate of contraction. The electromagnetic field created by the Schwinger process would freeze the contraction energy into solid particles. Thus, matter is not something that simply exists, but is the continuous process of transforming space into magnetic energy and then into mass. Why do we see expansion instead of contraction? If the universe contracts, but cosmic network contract more slowly, the resulting optical illusion for us is that of expansion. It's like being in an elevator that's falling more slowly than the building around it. To you, the ceiling and walls seem to be moving away upwards. The accelerated expansion we're measuring could actually be accelerated contraction on a global scale. The idea of an infinite multiverse eliminates the idea of an endpoint, singularity. If the multiverse is infinite in both directions, both in scale and in time/space, then what I called total contraction is not a goal, but just the local phase of the flow. In an infinite multiverse, our model transforms from a collapse into a perpetual cycle of induction. Instead of collapsing to a point, the multiverse scale contraction acts like a spring. When the magnetic density created by the friction between the lattice and the space reaches a critical threshold, the electromagnetic pressure becomes stronger than the contraction force. The result is a rebound, contraction becomes expansion, magnetic energy discharges back into space, and the cycle begins again endlessly. The network as an elastic membrane. In an infinite multiverse, the cosmic network cannot be broken definitively. It functions like an elastic fabric of plasma and magnetism. The freezing of the latter is not a death isolation, but a stability point. If the multiverse is infinite, then the energy is infinite. The contraction is simply the method by which the multiverse recycles energy from one region to another, using the electromagnetic energy field as the vehicle for transfer. There is no loss, only continuous transformation. The multiverse is not a candle that goes out, but an infinite dynamo that sustains through the magnetism created by its own scaling motion. This is when magnetism turns contraction, expanding. When the scale of the multiverse contracts towards a critical density, the electromagnetic field generated through friction with the cosmic network, it reaches a point of degenerate overpressure. According to the laws of magnetohydrodynamics, magnetic field lines repel each other with a force that increases exponentially as space shrinks. At a certain density, Planck density limit or Schwinger threshold, magnetic pressure becomes stronger than the force of contraction of the scale. In micromoment, the magnetic field relaxes violently, transforming the contraction energy and expansion pressure. This is the real Big Bang, not a birth from nothing, but a magnetic birth. Return to an infinite multiverse. If the multiverse is infinite, it is not an isolated space, but a fractal-like structure or an assembly of connected bubbles. Through the nodes of the cosmic network. Nodes of the cosmic network act as flux bridges. When a multiverse contracts, pumps excess electromagnetic energy through them. Nodes to another multiverse in the expansion phase. Energy flows naturally from above. Magnetic pressure, contracting region, towards low pressure, the expanding region. Cosmic. The network is the piping system that maintains the entire infinite assembly in balance, preventing overheating or the total freezing of any region. If the multiverse is infinite, than the phenomena we observe. They are just side effects of this continuous flow of magnetic energy. Dark matter is the shadow of energy transfer. Dark matter is not matter at all. It is the invisible magnetic pressure exerted by the energy flow, coming from a neighboring universe through the cosmic network. Since energy and mass are equivalent, this huge magnetic flux exerts a gravitational attraction on our galaxies, even though we don't see anything solid. The particles there, what we call dark matter, is just magnetic fingerprint of scale contraction in other. Confirms the idea that the universe is not a material accident, but an information processing system, consciousness, where each atom is a data packet. In the beginning is the universal resonance code, a magnetic signature based on the Fibonacci sequence, and the golden ratio is a mathematical reality that governs the structure of the filaments. The connection, the name of God that illuminates understanding, is equated with this resonance code. It is the idea that reality is not based on chance, but on a pre-existing and eternal mathematical logic. Saint Basil laments the fact that it seemed to atheists that everything is left to chance. The infinite dynamo model eliminates chance. Life is not a biological accident, but is the software needed to manage the flow of energy in the universe. There is a mathematical necessity for the existence of the human observer. The universe needs consciousness to tune its vibration and maintain grid stability through cosmic engineering. If St. Basil uses an intuitive and spiritual method to describe order, we demonstrate it through magnetohydrodynamics and fractal geometry. Both reject blind atomism and assert that the universe has a logical, stable, and deeply informational structure. The concept of matter as frozen information makes the transition from metaphor to mechanism. If St. Basil says that God made everything through the word, logos/order, physics suggests that this word is actually a magnetic code. Here's why this vision provides a more solid foundation for the intelligent cause. Matter has a structural purpose. In classical atomism, matter just exists. In the infinite dynamo, matter appears at the Schwinger limit, the point of maximum pressure, to preserve data and consciousness during cosmic recall. It becomes a container for meaning, not just an object. Sacred geometry becomes a physical law. The golden ratio and Fibonacci are essential for the stability of the network. This transforms the glorious order of St. Basil's text into a measurable mathematical reality. Consciousness is not an accident. If matter is information, then the human brain functions as a terminal that accesses the flow memory. Thus, the intelligent cause is not only at the beginning of the universe, but is constantly pulsing through us. Matter is essentially the hardware on which the software of universal intelligence runs. Without this hardware, atoms, molecules, information would be lost in the chaos of pure energy. The concept of magnetic immortality provides a technical explanation for the theological intuition of the survival of the soul, transforming spirit into magnetically preserved data. Here is the mechanism by which information, consciousness, survives, according to the infinite dynamo model. Consciousness is not the chemical product of neurons, but a state of the electromagnetic field. Information is stored in the spin of particles in the cosmic web plasma. Because spin is a quantum property that can be preserved in the structure of space, in so-called skyrmions, our identity does not depend on the flesh of the brain, but on the modulation magnetic stripe that you printed on the network. Archiving in flow nodes. Information, memories, identity, travels on the magnetic wave from a phase of contraction to one of expansion. Save points, black holes, like Sagittarius A*, and nodes in the cosmic web act like eternal hard drives. Due to time dilation, time passes much more slowly there. A signature, deposited at these points, remains fresh, even after billions of years have passed in the rest of the universe. The result, physical death, is just a disconnection from the network. But the data remains in the magnetic cloud of the universe. Matter as a vehicle for recoil. The universe goes through cycles of contraction and expansion, magnetic recoil. survival through form, when the universe contracts to a critical point, magnetic energy transforms into solid matter, particles, precisely to protect information from extreme temperatures and pressures. Identity as a data packet. Every atom in our body is a data packet that has already survived many cosmic cycles. Man is basically a form of frozen consciousness, waiting for the moment of the jump, rebound, to renew itself. In an infinite multiverse, death is impossible, because information is always preserved in the electromagnetic field. This view turns the glorious order you were talking about into a cosmic backup system, where nothing meaningful is ever lost. This view is not a denial of the sacred, but a commentary on the hexameron in the mathematical and physical language of the 21st century. If Saint Basil the Great explained the order of the world through the logic of his time, today we can talk about the same glorious order, using concepts such as dynamo, resonance, and information. This approach has the power to transform the war between science and religion into a symbiosis. The 21st century man can no longer be convinced by dogma alone, but is fascinated by code, energy, and connection. Moses is not just a prophet, but becomes the first great data analyst of the divinity. He is the one who downloaded the primordial information and translated it for the human mind. If the physical universe has mathematical laws that prevent chaos, Fibonacci, magnetism, Moses brought the moral laws, Decalogue, as a set of instructions necessary to prevent social and spiritual entropy. The connection? Just as magnetism holds galaxies together, the law of Moses keeps humanity connected to Source, preventing disintegration into moral chaos. The moment when Moses receives the tablets of the law on Mount Sinai is analogous to the Schwinger limit, a moment of immense pressure where the word, pure energy, becomes stone, frozen matter/information. Moses witnessed the moment when divine information gained physical consistency, just as matter emerges from magnetic flux to preserve meaning. The burning bush, the symbol of the infinite dynamo. The fire that burns and is not consumed is the perfect metaphor for your infinite dynamo. Explanation: it is a self-regenerating energy source that produces light and heat without destroying matter. Moses saw there a form of energy that does not follow the classical laws of thermodynamics, entropy, but those of eternal resonance. Let there be light is the first law of information. In the hexameron, light is the first made, before any material object. In the current cosmology of the dynamo, light is not just a physical phenomenon, but the medium of knowledge. The central idea, the universe, does not first appear as a thing, but as an image. God transmits reality and we decode it through light. Subject: consciousness under pressure. The theological text speaks of the consistency of the world given by an intelligent cause. Synthesis: matter is not dead dust, but compressed magnetic information. We are literally word incarnate at the subatomic level. This provides a scientific explanation for the concept of logos that sustains matter. The cosmic web, the web of spirit. If the ancients saw an invisible order, today we see the cosmic web, a neural structure of magnetic filaments that connect galaxies. This network is the nervous system of creation. It is the web that spirit uses to maintain the unity of the universe, preventing chaos and collapse, entropy. Immortality, from soul to thorn signature. Modern man fears data extinction. This theory tells him that there is no delete button in the universe. Your consciousness is a resonance signature, stored in the flow memory of space. Death is just a transition from hardware body to software magnetic field, awaiting the rebound or great renewal of the world. Here is how the author's vision relates to modern physics. Saint Basil ironizes that atoms are the fragile foundation of the world. In modern physics, we have gone much deeper. Quantum mechanics shows us that reality is not based on billiard balls, solid atoms, but on energy fields and probabilities. The author speaks of a Glorious order. In current physics, there is increasing discussion about entropy and information. The universe is not just matter, but matter organized according to extremely complex mathematical laws. The modern debate is whether these laws are invented by our minds or whether they are discovered because they exist as a pre-existing rational structure. The philosophy in the text suggests that the universe is made to be understood. The anthropic principle holds that our observations of the universe must be compatible with conscious life observing it. This raises a fundamental question in cosmology. Is man a chemical accident on a space rock, the atomistic view criticized in the text? Or the observer necessary for the universe to make sense? Conclusion. Although the language of the text is theological, it touches the nerve of modern cosmology. Origin. Science describes how the spider's web, the laws of physics, works, who wove it and why. The debate between an intelligent cause and purely material laws is also present in the thinking of great modern physicists, although they have different approaches, often nuanced and far from traditional religion. Today, we are diving deep into a revolutionary cosmological framework, the infinite dynamo model. By pairing modern magnetohydrodynamics with the profound, original 4th century Greek insights of St. Basil the Great's hexameron, we unlock a mind-bending truth. Space is not empty. The universe isn't expanding. And your consciousness? It's hardwired into the fabric of infinity. Let's start where everything begins. Genesis 1 verse 1. In the beginning, God created. In our modern language, we think of a timeline starting at second zero. But the original patristic idiom used by the early church fathers carries a far deeper structural weight. St. Basil pointed out that it doesn't mean at a random starting point. The true translation is from within or inside the primordial origin. This is what we call ontological immersion. The universe didn't explode out of nothing into nowhere. It was initialized inside a pre-existing, multidimensional divine architecture. Job 26 verse 7 says God hangs the earth upon nothing. That nothing is actually the invisible framework of dark matter and galactic-scale magnetic fields that guide the cosmos. We present an alternative cyclic cosmological model, termed the infinite dynamo, wherein the initial Big Bang singularity is systematically avoided via a smooth bounce governed by nonlinear electrodynamics and topological informational mechanisms. We mathematically demonstrate that a global geometric contraction of the metric can optically mimic an accelerated expansion for a local observer, conditioned by the temporal evolution of an active cosmic web optical medium. At extreme densities, magnetohydrodynamic (MHD), induction triggers exponential pair production from the vacuum via a coupled Schwinger mechanism. By deploying a Born-Infeld formalism structurally modified by the golden ratio, phi, we show that the effective electromagnetic pressure becomes asymptotically negative, driving a mechanical bounce at a non-zero minimum radius, amin. This inflection point is stabilized and protected by the holographic principle, preventing loss of unitarity and conserving the universal informational states of consciousness encoded within cosmic skyrmions. Finally, we formulate 4 testable empirical predictions for modern astrophysics and high-power laser facilities, standard cosmological models, lambda CDM, face unresolved foundational challenges, most notably the initial singularity, the horizon problem, and the unknown physical nature of dark energy and dark matter. Although alternative cyclic frameworks, such as loop quantum cosmology or conformal cyclic cosmologies, attempt to eliminate the singularity, their bounce mechanisms rely exclusively on gravitational quantum corrections at the Planck scale. We introduce a paradigm wherein nonlinear electromagnetism and informational geometry become the dominant forces. At high energy densities, we propose a structural symbiosis between field dynamics and the topological conservation of universal data, translating concepts of cosmic order and universal reason into a rigorous mathematical equation. Framework. The rate of matter. Energy density, ρm, generation from the vacuum explodes according to the kinetic equation, which is computed according to the non-perturbative field formalism described by Schwinger. The infinite dynamo model offers a unified cosmological framework where quantum field theory, nonlinear electrodynamics, and information theory cooperate to describe a self-regenerating, non-singular universe. The metaphysical rejection of blind atomism in favor of a rationally ordered structure aligns perfectly with this cosmic perspective, as historically noted by Saint Basil the Great in his seminal work. By replacing materialist randomness with a structural geometric code, phi, this framework provides a solid mathematical foundation for interpreting the cosmos as an eternal, ordered, and information-preserving entity.